Mix it with Mike. Bootcamp tip: compressing vocals for presence. One of the things that often comes up in a mix is the ability to pull a vocal out in front of the rest of the production. And you hear this all the time, and primarily it's done with a series of different steps throughout the mix. What you're really looking to do is to create contrast between the different elements of the mix. You want to apply a certain tonal texture, compression settings, and whatever to the rhythm section, or maybe primarily instruments that are pan center in the speakers. And then you want to have a different mix or a different approach, rather, to what you want to feature in the mix. So, in other words, it would be a very common technique, for example, to take the main rhythm section instruments, maybe the drums and bass in particular, whatever is driving the primary beat in the center, and run it through some kind of a broadcast limiter setting that would have a fast attack and a long release and kind of really glue or hold on to the sound. So it feels like it kind of hits this wall that's right behind the vocal. And then what you would do is you would have the vocal set up where instead of being stabilized by a compressor that's sort of holding on to the signal, you have something that's making it breathe and pump and move. And that contrast of movement to something that's more contained and stationary actually gives you that forward presence. And it doesn't mean that the other stuff is not dynamic and alive, but you have to create enough of a contrast in order for the two to sort of separate. One of the most common ways to do that is to use a pumping and breathing technique with a vocal. And one of the most popular ones, and what really was used most often in studio for me with the hardware, was using an 1176 in all buttons mode. Now, on the actual hardware, where you literally grab and with your four fingers, however many digits, depending on how big they are, you would push all four buttons at the same time and it would lock into place. And what you get with this is this sort of hyperactive compression. On the real compressor, it actually, the gain reduction needle pegs, but what happens is that when you actually apply compression to it, the primary difference is that you get a much faster, much more responsive release time than when you use any of the other ratios involved. And without getting into all of the electronics and what happens and how it works, more or less, that's the basic ticket. So here's how we would use it. So if I have a vocal and
you looking, I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more when you're talking.
right, so I have this vocal here, and it has this certain performance quality, but it kind of holds in a particular place, right? I don't really feel a lot of aliveness or movement from it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work with this compressor. I'm going to look, usually I'm looking here for about, on average, maybe like 5 to 7 dB of gain reduction. Sometimes it'll be less, sometimes it'll be a little bit more, but it'll kind of fit in and around that area. All buttons mode, the attack time can be adjusted to be a little bit faster, a little bit slower, but remember, the attack times, the numbers are reversed. So 7 is faster and 1 is slower, and all of these numbers are below 1 millisecond. And so like the number 1 setting is like 0.8 milliseconds, and down here it's like 0.035 milliseconds. So it's very fast, but it has kind of a soft knee to it, which is why it has a smooth character. Still, you hear a range of difference with the sound just within there. The release time characteristics are pretty fast. I think, off the top of my head, I'm not remembering. I think the fast release time is somewhere around 50 milliseconds or so. So I want it to really breathe and move quickly. All right, so here I'm going to set this up and let's dial this in a little bit.
You looking, I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more when you're talking. I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling?
Now I can also take this, I can copy these settings over and use a silver face, which will give me a little bit of a brighter sound.
You looking, I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more when you're talking. I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more.
So I have the added benefit of creating like a warmer, fuller sound for the voice, or a brighter, more present sound of the voice.
You looking? I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. When you're talking, I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling?
And we can check to see what it sounds like inside of the track. One of the things I want you to really notice, though, when I switch this in and out, is how the vocal now seems more dimensional when it's breathing. Now, of course, what it's doing is it's bringing up the breaths, it's bringing up the tail ends of words. And what that does when you create that movement and you bring that detail out, it will give the sensation, even if you balance the output gain, that the vocal is sort of lifted and closer to you, because we already have this very intense neural network, very sophisticated neural network in our brain that has built up this idea that when you hear all of that detail, the breath, and you hear the spit in somebody's mouth, that there are close to you, right? You feel that. It gives you this sensation of something being very close to you, because when somebody's far away, you don't hear their breath, right? You hear the words that you're saying, but not with the same detail. And that's what this technique brings out.
You looking? I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. When you're talking, I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling?
So what you'll get is this sense of dimensionality, and that's inherent in the movement. So let's listen to it in the track.
You looking? I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. When you're talking, I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. You're trying, you love me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you're chasing, she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
So I could pick either of these, but if you get a sense or a feel for it, what you'll get is this feeling like that it somehow now becomes three-dimensional instead of becoming flat. And that's the whole difference here, and the basic idea. So let's say that you don't have this. You could do something very similar with a digital compressor, just like even grabbing something here like the Pro C2. And what we do here is we would have a fast attack time. I'm making it about 0.25 milliseconds, which is the default. Very fast release time, so I want it to be responsive. Ratio is a little under 3:1. I'm just going to set the threshold here to kind of give me a significant. I'm still going to be looking for that target around 5 dB of gain reduction, but I want the release to be very dramatic.
You looking? I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. When you're talking, I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more.
So this will give you a similar effect, but without the tonal coloration. And that's where the 1176 sort of has an advantage. But just to show you that you can do a similar type of thing using other forms of compression. Now, if I were to take, for example, just the primary vocal and the rhythm track. So if I started with that, let me just kind of mute that out here on the other end. And I'm just going to throw something on here just to kind of show you what I mean. I wouldn't necessarily do it this way, but even if it just gives you an idea of what I'm talking about when you balance out or take the primary rhythm section instruments. In this case, it'll be drums and bass. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set time constant to maybe 4 or 5, something that kind of grabs onto the signal and holds on. So when we got a couple dB of gain reduction, the needle's not going to recover very quickly. It's going to kind of hold on to the signal. Attack time is somewhere around a millisecond for most broadcast limiters, and this is no exception to that.
You looking? I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. When you're talking, I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. You're trying,
So now just notice the focus of the vocal. I'm just going to kick over to the chorus here because I think you'll hear it there most clearly. Notice how when I put this in, how the presence of the drums comes through more clearly and the vocal sounds more forward.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you're chasing, she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
Not sure. Well, hold on one second here. Let me go back.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you're chasing, she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
So now if I think I have these in the same realm here, let me just do this. So if I take this and I take this and I bypass both of them in and out here, you hear the contrast between the two different ways of working.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you're chasing, she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
Right, so just in that simple example, you could hear by how contrasting compression styles and the basic techniques that you use can help to bring out a voice independent of the rhythm section, or not independent, connected to it. Both still sound exciting and alive, and you get this presence of the vocal that comes through. Now, this is without any of the width processing or any other reverberant or delay processing like I showed you in the previous videos. And that's why I bring this technique to show you that it's more than just putting width processing or some particular type of processing to get the vocal or whatever to appear forward or out in front of something. That's one technique, but it's part of a bigger strategy in the overall mix. All right, there's a boot camp tip: compressing vocals for presence. And you can find this in many, many, many more. I wouldn't even call them tips because it's a whole philosophy and way of mixing, kind of like a path for engineers, teaching you good instinctual operating methods for all of the mixing work that you do. It's kind of like a way of instilling good habits into your mix flow and the way that you analyze and work with songs and mixing. So the boot camp is all of that, much more sophisticated than just bringing you tips like this. This is just a small nugget of the information that you find there. If you're interested, check out the boot camp at mixingwithmike.com. And you'll find much more information about there, loads of multi-tracks to work with. It's a 52-week program that will help to instill good habits and great mixing skills that you can carry on to use in all of your mix work, whether it's personal or professional for other people. There you have it. This is a boot camp tip: compressing vocals for presence.